welcome to Short Stories. Today we will be telling the elephant's child. This is a part of the Gesture stories written by Rudyard Kipling. In the high and far off times, the elephant, oh best beloved, had no trunk. He had only a blackish bulgy nose, as big as a boat, that he could wriggle about from side to side, but he couldn't pick up things with it. But there was one elephant, a new elephant, an elephant's child, who was full of satiable curiosity. That means he asked ever so many questions. As he lived in Africa and he filled all Africa with his satiable curiosities, he asked his tall aunt the ostrich why her tail feathers grew just so, and his tall aunt the ostrich spanked him with her hard claw. He asked his tall uncle the giraffe what made his skin spotty, and his tall uncle the giraffe spanked him with his hard hoof. And still he was full of satiable curiosity. He asked his broad aunt, the hippopotamus, why her eyes were red, and his broad aunt, the hippopotamus, spanked him with her broad hoof. And he asked his hairy uncle, the baboon, why melons tasted just so. And his hairy uncle, the baboon, spanked him with his hairy paw. And still he was full of satiable curiosity. He asked questions about everything that he saw or heard or felt or smelt or touched. And all his uncles and his aunts spanked him. And still he was full of satiable curiosity. One fine morning in the middle of the procession of the equinoxes, this satiable elephant's child asked a new fine question that he had never asked before. He asked, "What does the crocodile have for dinner?" Then everybody said, "Hush," in a loud and dreadful tone. And they spanked him immediately and directly without stopping for a long time. By and by, when that was finished, he came upon the colo bird, sitting in the middle of a wait-a-bit torn bush. And he said, "My father has spanked me, and my mother has spanked me. All my aunts and uncles have spanked me for my satiable curiosity. And still I want to know what the crocodile has for dinner." Then the colo bird said with a mournful cry, "Go to the banks of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River, all set above with fever trees, and find out." That very next morning, when there was nothing left of the equinoxes, called the procession, had proceeded according to the precedent. This satiable child took 100 pounds of bananas, the little short and red kind, and 100 pounds of sugar cane, the long purple kind, and 17 melons, the green crackly kind, and said to all his dear families, "Goodbye. I am going to the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River, all set with fever trees, to find out what the crocodile has for dinner." And they spanked him once more for luck, though he asked them most politely to stop. Then he went away a little warm, but not at all astonished, eating melons and throwing the rind around, because he could not pick it up. He went from Grahamstown to Kimberley, and from Kimberley to Khama's country, and from Khama's country he went east by north, eating melons all the time, till at last he came to the banks of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River, all set with the fever trees, precisely as the colo bird had said. Now you must know and understand, oh best beloved, that till the very week and day and hour and minute, this satiable elephant's child had never seen a crocodile and did not know what one was like. It was all his satiable curiosity. The first thing he found was a bicolored python rock snake curled around a rock. "Excuse me," said the elephant child most politely, "but have you seen such a thing as a crocodile in these promiscuous parts?" "Have I seen a crocodile?" said the bicolored python rock snake in a dreadful scorn. "What will you ask me next?" "Excuse me," said the elephant child, "but could you kindly tell me what he has for dinner?" Then the bicolored python rock snake uncoiled him very quickly from the rock and spanked the elephant's child with his scalesome and flaysome tail. "That is odd," said the elephant's child, "because my father and my mother and my uncle and aunt, not to mention my other aunt, the hippopotamus, and my other uncle, the baboon, have all spanked me for my satiable curiosity, and I suppose this is the same thing." So he said goodbye very politely to the bicolored python rock snake and helped to coil him up under rock again, and went on a little warm, but not at all astonished, eating melons and throwing the rind around, because he could not pick it up, till he trod on what he thought was a log of wood at the very edge of the great grey-green greasy Limpopo River, all set with fever trees. But it was really a crocodile, our best beloved, and the crocodile winked one eye like this. "Excuse me," said the elephant child most politely, "but do you happen to see a crocodile in these promiscuous parts?" Then the crocodile winked the other eye and lifted his tail out of the mud, and the elephant child stepped back most politely, because he did not wish to be spanked again. "Come hither, little one. Why do you ask such things?" "Excuse me," asked the elephant child most politely, "but my father had spanked me, my mother had spanked me, not to mention my tall aunt the ostrich and my tall uncle the giraffe, who can kick me ever so hard, as well as my broad aunt the hippopotamus, and my hairy uncle the baboon, and including the bicolored python rock snake, with the scalesome and flailsome tail just up the bank, who spanks harder than any of them. So it's quite all the same to you. I don't want to be spanked anymore." "Come hither, little one," said the crocodile, "for I am the crocodile." And he wept a crocodile tears to show it was quite sore. Then the elephant child grew all breathless and panted and kneeled down the bank and said, "You are the very person I have been looking for all these long days. Will you please tell me what you have for dinner? Come hither, little one, and I'll whisper." Then the elephant child put his head down close to the crocodile's musky, tusky mouth, and the crocodile caught him by his little nose, which up to that week, day, hour, and minute had been no bigger than a book, though much more useful. "I think," said the crocodile, and said between its teeth like this, "I think today I will begin with elephant's child." At this, our best beloved, the elephant's child was much annoyed, and he said, speaking through his nose, "Yes, let go, you are hurting me." Then the bicolored python rock snake fell down from the bank and said, "My young friend, if you do not now instantly pull as hard as you can, it is my opinion that your acquaintance in the large paddle leather hustler," and by this he meant the crocodile, "will jerk you into yonder limpid stream before you can say Jack Robinson." This is the way bicolored python rock snakes always talk. Then the elephant's child sat back on his haunches and pulled and pulled and pulled, and his nose began to stretch. And the crocodile floundered in the water, making it all creamy with great sweeps of his tail, and he pulled and pulled and pulled. And the elephant's child nose kept on stretching, and the elephant's child spread all his little forelegs and pulled, and pulled and pulled. And its nose kept on stretching, and the crocodile stretched at its tail like an oar, and he pulled and pulled and pulled. At each pull, the elephant's child nose grew longer and longer. It hurt him hideous. Then the elephant's child felt his leg slipping, and he told to his nose, which was nearly now 5 feet long, "This is too much for me," which actually means this is too much for me. That's how it talked through the nose. Then the bicolored python rock snake came down the bank and knotted himself into a double claw hitch around the elephant child's head and said, "Rash and inexperienced traveler, if you do not, it is my impression that yonder self-propelling man of war with the armor-plated upper deck, and by this, oh beloved, he meant the crocodile, will permanently vitiate your future career." This is all the time how bicolored python rock snakes always talk. So he pulled, and the elephant child pulled, and the crocodile pulled. But the elephant child and the bicolored python rock snake pulled the hardest, and at last the crocodile let go of the snake's nose with a plop that you could hear all up and down the Limpopo. Then the elephant child sat down most and hard and sudden, but first he was careful to say thank you to the bicolored python rock snake, and next he was kind to his poor pulled nose, wrapped it all in cool banana leaves, and hung it on in the green, greasy Limpopo to cool. "What are you doing that for?" said the bicolored python rock snake. "Excuse me," said the elephant child, "but my nose is badly out of shape, and I'm waiting it to shrink." Then you'll have to wait a long time," said the bicolored python rock snake. "Some people do not know what is good for them." The elephant child sat there for 3 days waiting for his nose to shrink, but it never grew any shorter, and besides it made him squint. For you will see and understand that the crocodile had pulled it out into a really truly trunk, same as all elephants have today. At the end of the day, a fly came and strung him up on the shoulder, and before he knew what he was doing, he lifted his trunk and he hit the fly dead with the end of it. "Vantage number 1, said the bicolored python rock snake, which means advantage number 1. "You couldn't have done that with a mere smear nose. Try and eat a little now." Before he thought he was doing what he was doing, the elephant child put out his trunk and plucked a large bundle of grass, dusted it clean, its 4 legs, and stuffed it into his mouth. "Vantage number 2, said the bicolored python rock snake. "You couldn't have done that with a mere smear nose. Don't you think the sun is very hot here?" "It is." And before he thought what he was doing again, he scooped up a clop of mud from the banks of the great grey-grayed, greasy Limpopo and slapped it on his head, where it made a cool, sloppy, sloshy mud cap all trickly behind his ears. "Vantage number 3, said the bicolored python rock snake. You couldn't have done that with a mere nose. Now, how do you feel about being spanked again? Excuse me, said the elephant child, but I should not like it at all. How would you like to spank somebody? Said the bicolored python rock snake. I should like it very much indeed, said the elephant's child. Well, said the bicolored python rock snake, you will find out that that new nose of yours is very useful to spank people with. Thank you, said the elephant child. I'll try that and now I think I will go to my dear family and try. So the child went home across Africa, frisking and whisking his trunk. When he wanted fruit, he pulled the fruit down from a tree instead of waiting for it to fall as he used to. When he wanted grass, he plucked grass from the ground instead of going on his knees as he used to do. When the flies bit him, he broke off the branch of the tree and used it as a fly whisk, and he made himself a new, cool, slushy, squishy mud cap whenever the sun was hot. When he felt lonely walking through Africa, he sang to himself down his trunk, and the noise was louder than several brass bands. He went especially out of his way to find a broad hippopotamus. She was no relation of his, so mind that. And he spanked her very hard to make sure the bicolored python rock snake had spoken the truth about his new trunk. The rest of the time, he picked up melon rinds that he had dropped on his way to the Limpopo, for he was a tidy patch of them. One dark evening, he came back to all his dear families as he coiled up his trunk and said, "How do you do?" They were very glad to see him and immediately said, "Come here and be spanked for your satiable curiosity." "Poor," said the elephant child, "I don't think you peoples know anything about spanking, but I do, and I'll show you." And then he uncurled his trunk and knocked two of his dear brothers head over heels. "Oh, bananas," said they, "where did you learn that trick, and what have you done to your nose?" "I got a new one from the crocodile on the banks of the great grey green grassy Limpopo river. I asked him what he had for dinner, and he gave me this to keep." "Looks very ugly," said the hairy uncle the baboon. "It does," said the elephant child, "but it's very useful," and he picked up his hairy uncle the baboon by one hairy leg and hove him into a hornet's nest. Then that bad elephant child spanked all his dear families for a long time, till they were very warm and greatly astonished, and blew bubbles into her ear when she was sleeping in the water after meals. But he never let anyone touch Colo Colo bird. At last, things grew so exciting that his dear families went one by one in a hurry to the banks of the great green greasy Limpopo river, all set with feather trees, to borrow new noses from the crocodile. When they came back, nobody spanked anybody anymore, and ever since that day, oh best love, all the elephants will ever see, besides all those you won't, have trunks precisely like the trunk of the satiable elephant. The end. Thank you very much for listening.